Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of colors and the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Community Foundation's Jeffrey A. Stoops, Chair of the Board of Directors, and Danita R. Dehaney, President and CEO, to the stage.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Community Foundation for Palm Beach and Martin Counties, welcome to our annual Founders Luncheon. I am Jeff Stoops, and I am honored to lead the Community Foundation's board and work alongside so many of you for the good of our community.
And I am Danita Dehaney, and it is my privilege to lead the Community Foundation team in tandem with outstanding board and volunteers. Jeff and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as your co-hosts this afternoon.
First, please help us thank the U.S. Army's Miami Recruiting Battalion and its soldiers from the Jupiter Company who presented the colors. And help me thank Eiley Tetro, a junior at the Dreyfus School of the Arts, who sang our national anthem.
Yeah, it's amazing. We would also like to recognize those sponsors who generously helped make today's event possible. In particular, our leading sponsors, including the DePaula Family Fund, Marshall Field, the Coulter Group, the R&M Hagen Family Fund, Renee and William Meyer, and the Stoops Family Foundation. And of course, all of our community supporting table and media sponsors who helped fill the room today. Thank you so much.
I see we have another amazing sold-out crowd this year with nearly 600 donors, nonprofit partners, and community leaders. Please help me recognize the following elected officials. Palm Beach County Clerk Mike Caruso. Riviera Beach Councilwomen Shirley Lanier and Ferchella Davis Panier. And Boca Raton Deputy Mayor and City Council Member Fran Nocklis. I would also like to welcome my fellow Community Foundation board members. Would our past and present board members please stand and be recognized? We are grateful to all of you for joining us today as we raise awareness on an issue that hopefully most of us in this room do not have to worry about on a daily basis, and that's hunger. But for thousands of Palm Beach and Martin County children, veterans, or seniors, hunger is not just a pang in their stomach, it is a reality that affects over 200,000 residents each day in our footprint.
And of those 200,000 neighbors, 1/4 are children. Children who do not have enough healthy food to eat on a daily basis. When a child is chronically hungry or making a meal out of cheap packaged goods high in sugar, salt, or fat, it affects their physical health, their mental health, and their chances of succeeding in school or life.
Think about your own ability to concentrate, to feel motivated, to perform your best on an empty stomach. Hungry children have difficulty learning because they have a hard time focusing. And because of this, 50,000 of our area's children could be destined to struggle for the rest of their lives, because only strong learners become strong earners.
Attention on this issue may ebb and flow through the headlines, but the reality is that the lines at our area's food banks, pantries, and soup kitchens have been growing at a steady pace for years. In fact, the challenge locally has followed the upward trend of our area's rising rents, the high cost of food, and changes to assistance programs.
Thanks to our donors, the Community Foundation has been leading on this issue philanthropically for years, with close to $4 million distributed to food-related organizations in the last 5 years alone. But our grant making is just, thank you.
That's true.
But our grant making is just the beginning. Nearly 20 years ago, the Community Foundation created the Alleviate Hunger and Affordable Housing Initiative. Our goal was to collaborate with community partners on stronger ways to get assistance to those who needed it most.
And with a core group of 6 other funders, our initiative led to the formation of the Palm Beach County Food Bank in 2012. In that first year of operation, the food bank fed more than 80,000 hungry residents. Today, yes, that deserves a hand. Today, the food bank reaches an average of 193,000 residents per month and supports over 200 partner agencies in Palm Beach County.
Please help us thank the Palm Beach County Food Bank for their tireless work in fighting hunger. Another organization that deserves recognition for their work on this issue is the United Way of Palm Beach County. A decade ago, the United Way formed a hunger relief initiative of which the Community Foundation is a proud partner.
Alongside the Board of County Commissioners and 183 partner organizations, the initiative has helped expand access to nutritious food, strengthened the network of food providers, and introduced tools like the interactive food finder map that makes it easier to find pantries and kitchens in our communities. Their coordination of countless moving pieces has led to steady progress for our area's families and children, so please help us thank the United Way for their leadership. There are hundreds of nonprofit organizations like the Food Bank and the United Way that make up our area's ecosystem of nonprofits on the front lines of hunger. You can think of our ecosystem like a tree. At the top, there are organizations with broad branches that have the infrastructure to scale their reach. This includes partners like the food bank or service centers. Those big branches give shade to the nonprofits on the ground below. These organizations work directly with people. Think of the soup kitchens, the food pantries, or programs sending home backpacks full of nutritious food for children. And the trunk represents the systems that keep this ecosystem strong. This means partnerships with our school district, our civic leaders, and our community advocates.
Many organizations approach their role in this ecosystem with creativity, compassion, and innovation. Today, we want to highlight just a few of the gems, including Boca Helping Hands, which perfected an efficient drive-through distribution system. The Lighthouse Cafe in Belle Glade, which serves hot meals to hungry children, adults, and elders. Martin County's House of Hope, which grows their own fresh food in hydroponic greenhouses to give away in a store designed with dignity in mind. Cross Ministries, which has an army of volunteers combing local fields to harvest fresh fruits and vegetables for the hungry. And Rose Trolley, which cooks and delivers hot meals to homebound seniors. Let's take a closer look.
This is a community that cares about the hungry around it. Boca Helping Hands started out 26 years ago as a simple soup kitchen for the needy in our community here. We served 36 meals that day. Last year, we served 4.2 million meals to South Palm Beach County residents.
You know, it takes a lot of pride for them, and they actually express that it's so difficult for them just to be on a line and just come in here and see us and to face us because they need food. And I try to explain that it's like, it shouldn't be any fear, no shame, no nothing. We're here for that, to help them in that time of need.
We serve about 200 breakfast and lunch a day, Monday through Friday. We deliver about 45 to 50 plates to sick and shut-in individuals that just are not able to make it here for a meal and need a meal. And then we do snacks for the Christ Fellowship after-school program. So we love to involve ourselves in the community in any way we can.
I've seen such a change where they come and get their plate and go out and sit on the side of the road and eat their food and stuff. And it's just a blessing when I go in the stores around here, I meet them in the store and they recognize me. Hey man, I thank you for what y'all do for us. And that lets me know that we're doing something special for the community.
We grow our own food, so we have our farm out in Palm City, which now is close to 100,000 cubic feet of hydroponic growing space. Plus we have grove and some in-ground growing. We do nutrition ed, so we tie all of this back into health.
This is what we've learned in our experience is for our clients, health is really a challenging obstacle. So a lot of that we can handle by diet. We made the turn and really now focus on trying to feed people well. A lot of times if we can get a household healthy, everything else kind of falls into place.
Through August of 2025, we gleaned 460,000 pounds of fresh produce with over 3,500 volunteers. It's all about people coming together, and these are school groups, church groups from different faith communities, including our temples, businesses, individuals that want to go out and do something fun.
A lot of them have been here all of their lives. They have raised families. A lot of families and children have left, and a lot of them are here by themselves. Some of them can't. Some of them are homebound. Some of them are without transportation. And then I think a lot of time with a driver or myself or my brother driving to meet them and give it to them, that's where they're in touch with someone. So you can check on them. You can do the wellness check, make sure they're okay. For us to be able to give them not just food, but a hot, nutritious meal, something that can last them, something that we know is good. Once you start hearing the stories and listening and the thank yous, it just makes you want to even go harder.
When there's people, there's hope.
As you saw in that video, dedicated, passionate, and innovative people are working very hard to combat hunger in our community. Yet, the demand continues to grow. And that is why we are gathered here today, to learn how to rise together to meet this moment.
So, what can be done to meet the moment? Research has some clues. Today, we are honored to share some of them from our state's premier researcher on hunger, Dr. David Himmelgreen. Dr. Himmelgreen is the founder and director of the University of South Florida's Center for the Advancement of Food Security and Healthy Communities. He is a biomedical anthropologist, meaning his research is focused on how hunger affects health, education, and resilient communities. Dr. Himmelgreen is here to help us understand that addressing hunger is not just an act of compassion, it's sound economics, smart policy, and critical to our long-term community well-being. Please help us welcome Dr. David Himmelgreen.
Well, it's great to be here today. First off, I drove down from Tampa yesterday. It's a bit cooler there, so I really appreciate the warmer weather. And second, this is just an amazing audience. Really appreciate the fact that so many of you are here. In light of busy schedules, it's midweek, so it goes to the issue at hand and the importance of having community involved in these efforts. I want to thank the board and Dr. Dehaney for inviting me here, Julia and Brittany for helping me prep for the presentation, and the rest of the staff from the Community Foundation, and everyone here at this beautiful pavilion for organizing the event. I also want to give a shout out to, there is a contingency of USF folks here. Let's say yay. So, that's really important for me in light of the fact that, we have the support of a really highly ranked university that's ascended very quickly in a short period of time. So I want to talk a little bit, first of all, about myself, just very briefly. So here's a picture of me back in 1991. I had carrying less weight, and my hair was a lot darker. So how did I get involved in this line of work? A lot of people ask me that, and it goes back to when I was a student, maybe even before then, growing up in New York. And as a student, I was really interested in the intersection of nutrition and health and environment. So when I was doing my doctoral research, I landed up in Lesotho, which is a small landlocked nation, completely surrounded by South Africa. And I was studying how different types of households, mostly moms and children, coped with and showed resilience in the face of seasonal food scarcity, what we know as a type of food insecurity. And this was the early 90s, which says a little something about how old I am now. And I was, there was a lot going on at this time. South Africa was transitioning into a democracy. And what I learned at the end of the day was, there are a lot of events that go on in the world that have an impact at the local level. And I think that's the way we also have to approach food insecurity. It happens here on the ground, but there are a lot of external factors as well. So, to start, I want to just present a definition of food insecurity. It really is a social condition. It has to do with unlimited or uncertain access to food, and it has the potential to affect health throughout the lifespan, affect child growth and development, and all of the things that we heard about earlier. So often when people think about food insecurity, they think about hunger, and that's correct. If you're chronically hungry, you're food insecure. But I think the bigger issue here in the United States and other countries as well is that you can also be overnourished and food insecure. You have an unbalanced diet that's high in fat and sugar, highly processed foods, and that's attributable to the fact that people buy less expensive food when they're on a very limited income. They need to pay things like rent and their medicine, so food is often the first thing that is compromised. So food insecurity is, it occurs a number of different ways. So when we're designing programs to eliminate food insecurity, there are certain requirements for food security. One is the physical availability of food. Is the nutritious food in your, nearby? Is it in the market that you go to? Second is, do you have economic and physical access to the food? Do you have the money to purchase the food off the shelf? Do you have the transportation to get to the market? Do you even have the time to go out and shop and prepare a meal for your family? Often that's not the case. The third requirement for food security is what we call utilization. And that's not only the knowledge that people have about healthy food and preparing nutritious meals, but also the food storage that they have, proper refrigeration for food safety, utensils, basic things like that prohibit people from being food secure. So it's not just about getting food to people, it's about providing them with the knowledge and resources to be food secure. And if those three requirements are met and they're stable, then you have a food secure population. So here are some data on food security in the US. There's a time lag always. So I have data from 23 and 24. And as you will note in the graph, and probably know this already, food insecurity increases and decreases as the economy goes. So, during the Great Recession, we saw a big increase in food insecurity, and then it declined as the economy improved, and so on and so forth. And especially, I think, during and since the pandemic, there's been, much increased awareness about food insecurity. So, today, it's even higher now, but about 18% of children across the nation are food insecure. That's higher or lower depending on where they're living, where they come from. Okay. And it's about 13.5% of all households. So consider that this is significant in light of the fact that the US is the most food-rich country on earth. In Florida, again, the national data, 13.5% of all households. The food insecurity rate is a bit higher at 14.4%. And most notably, it's increased over 3% since 2022. So that's concerning. And then in Palm Beach County and Martin County, you see the rates there. They are lower than the Florida average, but nonetheless still significant. And then the graph on the right shows Florida vis-a-vis other states in the US. And as expected, and as we know, food insecurity tends to be higher in the South than elsewhere. Okay. So this is very concerning, this data I'm going to share with you. The United Way has created this measure of what they call a survival budget, right? And this is just the basic, or the minimum that you need for the basics, like food, housing, your taxes, so on and so forth. So if you look at Palm Beach, for a single adult, the bare minimum income has to be about $42,000 or $21 an hour. And for a family of four, it's over $108,000, which is, I think, comes out to about $54 per hour. So again, a significant number of folks in these two counties and throughout Florida and the nation are just at the survival budget. So it's not just homeless people, it's not people who are unemployed. In fact, the number of people who are food insecure that are employed is growing. And some data, and this data, by the way, comes from United Way. There's this acronym ALICE. It means asset limited, income constrained, but employed. And it shows that in Florida, about a third of all households are ALICE households. They meet the bare minimum to get by, and they don't have enough to thrive. Right? So these are the most vulnerable groups of people who are food insecure. I already talked a little bit about children, and that's very concerning because early insults on child growth and development have lifelong effects. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Seniors, a large population in the United States, and especially in Florida, about 15% of seniors are food insecure. Again, it's higher or lower depending on where people live. We have the compounded issue of people are elderly, living alone, being isolated, and that compounds the health problems that they may have. Veterans, very significant, long-standing problem, and not only veterans, but also military families, relatively high rates of food insecurity. And then I just mentioned college students because that's a bit surprising. Very high rates of food insecurity. We did a study a few years ago that we published on about 1,700 college students from Florida, and the food insecurity rate was even above 40%. And the really important part of this was, aside from being food insecure, was that we then looked at the relationship between food insecurity and academic success, academic performance. Food insecure college students tended to have lower grade point averages. It took longer for them to graduate. They had more mental health issues. And we know higher education is very important in the state of Florida. We get, basically mandates from our leaders that, we have to graduate students on time, and we have to get, they need to have the skills to be properly employed and earn a decent living. That's really difficult when students are faced with chronic food insecurity. Okay, so already you've heard a little bit about this, so I won't go into a great deal of detail, but there is a clear link between food insecurity and health. Obviously, there's poor nutrition, and in the case of the US, yes, there is hunger, and that's a problem, but the bigger issue is the connection between food insecurity and diet-related diseases. Diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, even some cancers. People who are food insecure are more likely to have these diseases than people who are not food insecure. There's also psychosocial data that's a lot of it. It's really accumulating now, showing anxiety, depression, concerns about having food to put on the table for your kids. And it results in, again, these mental health issues. And then even what we call psychobiological effects, like on cognitive function, real concern for older adults, data showing, immune deregulation, where the immune system isn't operating properly, and even on the gut microbiome, all those good bacteria in our bodies that help us to absorb and digest important nutrients. We've done research showing that the gut microbiome, the bacteria, differs between food secure and food insecure college students, for example. Now, lifelong effects of food insecurity, lower academic performance, absenteeism, we see behavioral problems in youth, and then, again, this is across the lifespan, college students, and in the workforce too, higher absenteeism, reduced productivity, workforce shortages. And a lot of industry partners are addressing this now. I was just talking with someone from Bank of America, and they are a great supporter of hunger relief programs here and in Tampa Bay. And I think they recognize that it may not just affect the larger population, but also employees. Right, so we have this double-barreled emergency, right? About 14 to 13.5% of Americans are food insecure. 60% of Americans have one or more chronic conditions. Again, it could be diabetes, it could be hypertension, And so they're occurring simultaneously, right? If we just were able to provide proper nutrition to everyone who needs it, that could prevent up to 600,000 deaths annually. So you imagine the, of course, emotional effects that has on the families who lose loved ones to these diseases, as well as the economic impact. So on the right, these are costs in billions of dollars for treatment of these diseases and lost productivity, approaching $1 trillion annually. And this is one of the reasons, our healthcare premiums rise as well, is the fact that it costs a lot of money to treat people who have these diseases. And we have to do more in terms of prevention. So, some not so good news to share with you, right? But I think there's a lot of great stuff going on, and I'm very hopeful. In 2020, we established our Center for the Advancement of Food Security in Healthy Communities. This center was recognized as a statewide center in 2021, recognized by our Board of Governors, who oversees higher education and USF. And we've grown, significantly in the time that the center has been established. So here's our mission. It's a bold one, basically, to eliminate food insecurity and improve community health, right? So these are the things we do, what we call translational research, and basically the idea is to do research and translate it into programs that are effective, all right, and are measurable. That's really important. I work with a lot of small, nonprofits and even some larger ones, and they don't always have the capacity to generate the data to show that something working or areas for improvement. And you need that data to get funding and to make the case. So we work with a lot of partners on again, program development, program evaluation, education. We run symposia and workshops, not only for USF faculty and students, but for the larger community. We contribute to policy discussions. There's a lot going on with regard to legislation around hunger. I'm part of a committee that's out of the Department of Agriculture in Florida, and we're working on, and a lot of there are folks here in this audience too, are working on, policy. A lot of great programs going on, but they're not always sustainable because there isn't a dedicated source of funding for them. And then I think most importantly for me is training this next generation of researchers, leaders, and advocates. I am so impressed with the students that I work with, who are not only bright, but so dedicated to this issue. And many of them experience, as I said, food insecurity, or they see it in their family and their friends. So this gives me great hope for the future. Okay, so I want to just talk about a couple of projects. This is, we've done more than 20 projects in a very short period of time, and they cut across the lifespan. They touch on different populations. So I'm going to talk about the food prescription project that we did, and then Health Buddies. But before I do that, I should mention that I think the timing really is right now to act. And a lot of good work has been done, and certainly everything that I've heard and read about what the Community Foundation here is doing is really important. But I think the timing is right for even more to be done. So some recent surveys show that 80 to 90% of Americans recognize the link between diet and health. And maybe even more importantly, nearly 90% of them prefer approaches using food instead of taking drugs, taking medicine. So I think the public is really on board with this. It's bipartisan, all right? And in this day and age, that's almost unheard of, but I think across the nation, people really are buying into this idea of food as prevention and for treatment and management of diseases. So food is medicine. There are many different types. Basically, you're delivering food to people and other resources like education to reduce food insecurity, improve dietary intake, improve physical and mental health, and to reduce healthcare costs, which we're all struggling with right now. So FoodRx, this was a partnership between Feeding Tampa Bay, our food bank in the major food bank in Tampa Bay, Elvira Health, which is health clinics that they have throughout the counties in Tampa Bay, or several of the counties, and then Humana, the health insurance provider, actually funded this project, and I think there's recognition among a number of these these insurance providers, on the ethics of making sure that people have, it is a right to have food to eat and eat properly, and also it reduces the bottom line. Again, as I was saying, you can reduce the cost of healthcare significantly through prevention and treatment, as with food as medicine. So we did a study, enrolled 330 patients, and 203 enrolled in the study. We followed them over a year. Right? They were given, there were on-site food pantries they can go to and get food. They were also given $25 per week vouchers to redeem at the clinic or at mobile food pantries that were run by Feeding Tampa Bay. And then we followed the patients over the year. This occurred during COVID, so there were lots of challenges. Nonetheless, we did lose folks, people who dropped out for lots of different reasons. It was a very difficult time, as you can remember. But the results, I think, are really significant. We looked at health clinical data, and we saw just improvements in food security and, blood glucose for folks who had type 2 diabetes. I think the main takeaway, the main result I didn't mention in the slide is that the more people redeemed food, the better the outcomes were, right? So we actually have a beautiful chart that shows redemption. Frequency of redemption is associated with better health outcomes, right? Health Buddies. This is a great program that's run by one of our partners, Seniors in Service. So there are the partners listed there, and we studied the program. That's Aria Garling, who was an undergraduate student at USF, who's now a graduate student who I'm mentoring. She was the project manager. She works for Seniors in Service. It's a 12-week program for older adults. They get home-delivered meals. And I think maybe one of the most important aspects, aside from the food, was that people would get weekly phone calls from USF college students. And they were just check-ins. It could be chats, it could be video or phone. And that, we're studying the data right now, but I can tell you for the quotes and comments we're getting back, that may be the most important outcome. Remember, a lot of these folks are isolated, don't have that much contact with the folks out the outside world, so that weekly connection. And this goes to the point that food as medicine is not just about giving people nutritious food. There are all these other needs, and I and others are really pushing for what we call more multidimensional food as medicine programs. So I just want to end by saying that I'm really hopeful about the future. I think the increased awareness about food insecurity since the pandemic it's easier to reach people. The research shows us that these food as medicine programs are efficacious. They can work if properly designed and implemented. And there's such positive energy, synergy among nonprofits, industry, right? Higher education, even in the food system. I was just talking to someone about farmers who are contributing or donating food to these programs. So from food production through consumption, there's a lot of buy-in. And I think now, here today, you can help with this. I'm really positive about the future in light of a very chaotic world that we live in. So I think I'm going to end there. Thank you very much.
Okay, please join me in thanking Dr. Himmelgreen for helping us to understand the causes and consequences of hunger, and for showing us that this is a challenge we can address together. But before we move forward, it's important to pause and remember who this issue touches, because behind every data point is a person, a family, and a story. And some of those stories may sound familiar: people experiencing homelessness, seniors living on fixed incomes, or families struggling far below the poverty line. But today, hunger is reaching far beyond those we might expect.
Our nonprofit partners report that the majority of their clients with food insecurity are now people with jobs, sometimes 2 or 3. Some drive cars, but many have to sleep in them. Some rent apartments or even own a house and share them with extended families priced out of their own homes.
Or some are simply one diagnosis away from disaster. And that is the case with James Rhoda, a Boynton Beach resident who has been a client with Feed the Hungry Family for over 5 years. James's story illustrates how success doesn't always safeguard against forces beyond our control, and how resilient we can be when the community rallies together.
I'm going to tell you that behind every face is a story, and this is mine. Hi, I'm James, and I'm 69 years old. I've had a fabulous life. I have traveled the world with my global event planning company. I have mingled with celebrities. I can honestly say that maybe some of you in the audience today might know me. You might have worked with me on one of your nonprofit organization galas. I considered myself blessed, and I still do consider myself blessed, but life is fragile, and in a moment it can change. What was revealed to me was unfortunately stage 4 throat cancer, which turned my life upside down. And then, like the rest of the world, COVID hit. And that award-winning global event planning company that I had, that allowed me to private jet from place to place, stopped. And I had to worry about, how do I keep a roof over my head? How do I keep the lights on? And I tell you, the first time that I had to get on the line for food, I was shaking, and I didn't have what I have now. This the anxiety that I have. And I went there with my card to the girl at the entrance, and I cried, because I never thought that my life could get to the point that I would have to receive a box of groceries from someone, because I was the one who was helping people.
You hear about it, and then suddenly you're one of the statistics. And I looked around and I thought, the world isn't really what you think it is, because if you just saw any one of these people walking down the street, you wouldn't know the story that's behind their eyes.
You know, my dad, he used to have all of these sayings growing up that never made sense to me. He would say, when your arms are open to give, they have to be open to receive. That day that I received that box of goods, if I was going to be able to give, I also had to be able to receive. And it was a very humbling experience for me. That food has kept me alive to this day.
My message to James is, I told you you could do it, because his first response when he found out how sick he was, I'm not going to fight. I don't think I have it in me. Because it was stage 4 and it was so far along, I think he thought it was a hopeless battle. And I told him there's no such thing as hopeless battles. And you start out with a positive attitude, and you fight, and you win. Because the only way to win is to fight. And he did, and he won. Before every meal, we thank them. We thank God, and we ask him to shed his blessing upon the people who donated the food, the people who pack the food, the people who are distributing it, everybody all the way down the line, the people writing checks that make sure it happens.
My village, my tribe, is made up of so many wonderful, caring, loving individuals. When in need, I have my tribe who comes. And I'm sure each and every one of you has your tribe, your personal tribe, who come and help. So understand this sense of community, neighbors helping neighbors, friends helping friends, family helping family, strangers helping those who they do not know. This is what community is all about.
James's story is a sobering reminder that our health is also our wealth. And we are pleased that James is healthy enough to join us today alongside his incredible neighbor, Dawn. And we asked James just to say a few words, so please help us welcome James Rhoda to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you. It's kind of hard to watch. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us here for this very, very special luncheon today. And what I learned earlier has just motivated me to keep on with my mission. It warms my heart to see so many wonderful faces out there. Each of you have your own story and your own generosity. I would like to thank the thousands of individuals who have opened their hearts and their hands to help people like me. The people who know me know that now in life I have my favorite sayings, and one of them is, it's my job to sprinkle glitter everywhere I go. But my favorite is, if you think your glass is half empty, pour it into a smaller glass. Thank you. Thank you. For those of us who believe in helping, we have the power to pour into the glasses of others, for it is in giving that we all receive. Each drop is a ripple which turns into waves of hope for those in need. So whether you're contributing a little or a lot, if we all pour what we can, I believe there'll be a place in time where everyone's glass is full. So today, as I stand before you, I would like to pour what little I can to the Hope for Hunger Fund. My gift may only be a small drop, but it is given with a grateful heart. And now, I'd like to invite you to consider just how much you can pour. Thank you, truly, thank you all for listening to my story, for opening your hearts, and for joining me today in making a difference. Enjoy your lunch, knowing that together we are filling lives with buoyancy, one drop at a time. Thank you.
James and Don, I know you just sat down, but would you both please stand up and let this crowd celebrate your courage, your humanity, and your tenacity. James and thousands like him have received the precious gift of food thanks to the generosity of people in this community and in this room today. We hope you will consider continuing that cycle of support by heeding James' call and making a gift to the Hope for Hunger Fund. To inspire you further, two of our donors, Harvey and Virginia Kimmel, who are here with us today, have issued a challenge They will match dollar for dollar up to $50,000 to this fund.
You can find a postcard at your table with a QR code with a direct donation link to the Hope for Hunger Fund. We encourage all of you to take the Kimmel's Challenge, to make a gift, and to transform a life. We have more to share this afternoon, but we know that it is lunchtime, so we'll take a very short break for lunch. Bon appetit, everyone. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have been enjoying your food and conversation. It is now time to turn our attention to celebrating and honoring one remarkable man's leadership and commitment to our community.
Marshall Field exemplifies the power and wisdom of giving where you live for the long term. He is a man who leads with strength, deep integrity, and an unwavering commitment to making a difference on lifelong passions, including environmental conservation, education, healthcare, the arts, and more. A retired businessman and publisher, he represents the fifth generation of a storied Chicago family celebrated for its civic leadership.
Giving his time, talent, and resources is simply in Marshall's DNA. And that is why nationally he volunteers with organizations like the World Wildlife Fund and the Nature Conservancy. And locally, he gives his time to the Hobe Sound Community Chest, the Everglades Foundation, the Boys and Girls Club of Martin County, and of course, the Community Foundation.
Today, we asked an individual who has worked with Marshall both in the Chicago community and here in South Florida to help us honor him. Sherry Barrett is a former Community Foundation board chair and received last year's McIntosh Award with her husband, Tom. She understands Marshall's enduring impact in many ways, including as a fellow philanthropist, as a mentor, collaborator, and as a friend. Please join me in welcoming Sherry Barrett.
Thank you, Jeff and Danita, for inviting me to be a part of this moment. I am very lucky to have worked alongside Marshall Field for many years, witnessing firsthand his quiet leadership and his belief that philanthropy is not a moment, it's a lifelong responsibility. Marshall and I got to know each other during my time in Chicago. He and I stayed in touch over the years after Tom and I returned to Florida. When he found out that I had joined the Community Foundation board, he told me that he would be happy to help us if the need arose. Well, I took him up on that offer when I became board chair. We had a long conversation about how he had led the tremendous growth of the Chicago Community Trust and how we might draw from that experience to help grow our community foundation. We wanted him to join the board, but wisely, Marshall preferred to stay out of the governance and serve as a special advisor. And he gave us great advice. I would say, Marshall, in Chicago, everyone knows what the Chicago Community Trust does. Here, not so many people know what a community foundation does, nor do they understand the power it can give them to impact their community. So Marshall said, well, let's ask some of the civic leaders and the community leaders here. And the Civic Leadership Committee was born just to do that. Several people in this room joined that committee, along with civic and business leaders who did not know about us, but were interested in learning and helping. I used to tell Marshall that he was my bait, that I used to attract all those busy people to carve out time for us. Marshall loves to fish, as you know, so it was a good thing that he was happy to be the bait for a change, and for a good cause. The input we received from that group was instrumental in laying the foundation for the resulting campaign to build our donor base and our endowment. Today, Marshall still gives his time and his wisdom as a member of the Philanthropy Committee, and in between, he has helped open countless doors to connect the great wealth with the great need in Palm Beach and Martin counties. No matter where he is, his approach is the same. Invest deeply, lead humbly, and stay committed for the long haul. He knows that communities don't change because of institutions alone. They change because individuals decide to care and take action. So let's hear from a few people who have been on the receiving end of Marshall's care with this special tribute to the living legend that is Marshall Field. So take a look at the video.
He lowers the temperature in a room. Sometimes you don't expect it, but it happens at the right time. So he mixes all of these character traits together to be a man who delivers.
When you look at the philanthropic reach of the Field family in Marshall Field, I mean, it goes from Chicago to the North Atlantic to South Florida. Just imagine the size of that triangle.
Marshall's just amazing. Marshall is a builder. He doesn't just give advice. You know, some people, they say that you put your money where your mouth is. Marshall puts his intellect, his connections, his energy, his time, he puts everything into it. So when Marshall decides to help, he helps.
Both of our parents have been concerned with helping the world around them, just in general. And so we grew up in a household that lived that. And it was part of sort of who we were as a family and individually.
Our father's legacy is giving back to this new type of philanthropy, which is the Community Foundation, because he would like to entrust that his philanthropic dollars live on in perpetuity.
Hope Sound is a community where anyone who has food needs can get those needs met. It would not be that way without Marshall Field.
And Marshall was insistent that we look to raise endowed funds because he has a long-term view. And that's a little bit harder to do, but very much speaks to the core of Marshall. He's not here just for today, he's here for the long term. He believes in building a structure that will be sustainable.
On behalf of the Everglades Foundation, I congratulate you on receiving this year's McIntosh Award.
Congratulations on the McIntosh Award, sir. To say it's well-deserved is an understatement.
Congratulations, Marshall. You deserve this award so much, and you have given so much to this community foundation. I just can't think of somebody who deserves this more. And I know you don't like awards, so you must have done this because you love us.
Dad, I'm so proud of you for getting the McIntosh Award. Everything that you do for so many people and so many places, it's really overwhelming in some senses. So you deserve this, and we love you.
Dad, congratulations on this McIntosh Award. I hope you're having a wonderful day with everyone and celebrating the Community Foundation. We're so proud of you.
Marshall, it has been one of the great privileges of my life to work alongside you, to learn from you, and to call you friend. So in recognition of Marshall's long-standing leadership and commitment to the community, please join me in congratulating the 2026 McIntosh Award recipient, Mr. Marshall Field. Marshall, will you come up?
Okay, I want to first of all thank Sherry Barrett because she was the one who got me to join this effort. And she said, I'd worked with her in Chicago where she had a one of the top jobs in Northern Trust, and then she moved down south, maybe Miami. And then she moved a little further north, and she called me up and she said, Marshall, I'm the chairman of the board of the Martin County Palm Beach Foundation, and we're going to do a $100 million campaign, and I need your help. Will you do it? Well, if you knew Sherry, you'd know you were never going to say no, because she'd keep after you until you gave up. So I just said sure. And I think my memory may be wrong, but I think that we got like 80, and then COVID came. That was the end of us. So we didn't get the 100, but it was a good start. So today, I want to thank the Community Foundation for this recognition and for keeping me busy for the last decade. And thank you to all of you who showed up today to support this lunch and the work of the Community Foundation. To be recognized by an organization that represents integrity, stewardship, and community leadership means a great deal to me. I've been fortunate to learn alongside many of you in this room, fellow donors and nonprofit leaders. And all of you know one thing about me: I don't really like recognition. And all of you know one thing about why I don't, because I think you're more effective at raising money if they don't see you coming. Fundraising is about a partnership. It's about listening. It's about supporting organizations and leaders who are doing hard, unglamorous work of making the world a better place. I came to Martin County in 1957, and I have been doing what I can to get this beautiful place cleaner, safer, healthier, and happier for my kids, yours, and all of our grandchildren. I don't really get overpaid. In fact, I get paid nothing for this, but my reward is to go to bed feeling really satisfied that you've actually done something to nudge the world. And I have news for you. I'm not done yet, and since the Community Foundation made the mistake of giving me the stage, I have an ask. If you were inspired today to support a cause like hunger, or education, or the arts, or environment, or any other thing that matters to you, I ask you to think about creating an endowed fund. Endowments are quite literally the future of philanthropy. Endowments protect your assets, they honor your preferences, and when you create one with a community foundation, nobody can mess with them. The best example of the power of endowments is the Community Foundation. This award is named after Winsome and Michael McIntosh, two Palm Beachers that wanted to make sure the community would be taken care of in the future. They seeded the Community Foundation in 1972 with $50,000. Look around this room. Look how that seed has grown. Think about how many nonprofits it has supported, how many neighbors it has helped, and how many people like me have had a hand in growing it into the pillar that it is. And so it is a great joy to accept this award from the Community Foundation because it honors leadership rooted not in recognition, but in responsibility. I take it as a sign of encouragement to keep going and to keep giving where I live, inspiring you to do the same. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Marshall. You are a truly visionary donor who has made an indelible impact on the environment and on local lives. Thank you for being a champion for the community and an inspiration to us all.
We hope that all of you are inspired by what you've heard today and the fact that we can all address the growing need for healthy, affordable food across our communities. As Dr. Himmelgreen, James Rhoda, and Marshall Field have reiterated, there is hope for hunger, and it starts in this room.
Our ask today is to join us and give where you live. If you haven't already, we invite you to take the Harvey and Virginia Kimmel's Challenge and make a gift to the Hope for Hunger Fund. Proceeds will be put to work right away with the trusted nonprofit organizations on the front lines of this issue.
And if you are interested in amplifying your giving even more, please reach out to our Community Foundation team, and we will help bring your vision to life as your philanthropic partner. Thank you to the nonprofit partners who joined us today, and to James and Don for sharing their stories. And we want to thank donors like Marshall Field for inspiring us all to stand alongside him in support of our area's greatest needs.
Thank you for being here today. Please join us again next year on February 24th, 2027 for our next Founders Luncheon. We look forward to partnering with you in giving for good. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.